ọjọ́ sí ọmọdé ìgbójú sókè wá gbá o tágbà bá ń rojọ́ ọmọdé wọn pa lọ́lọ́ ní lọ́jọ́ ọjọ́.
A very good morning to you, wherever you are listening from. Welcome on NDLE Weather Half Hour, right here on Midas Radio 90.5 FM at Duikiti. My name is Zolua Shegun Adeleke, and as you know, this program is an advocacy program where we talk about drug sensitization, drug awareness, drug abuse, drug-related crimes, and ways to curb it in our society. NDLEA State Command is in charge of this program, and of course, they are proudly sponsored by Kayode Adamolekun Foundation to ensure that we continually bring this program your way. Today, we want to look at something very, very amazing when it comes to drug awareness and ways to fight drug abuse, substance abuse, drug demand and drug supply in our society. This morning, we are joined by men of the NDLEA and, of course, a drug-free advocate, someone who advocates for a drug-free society among young people, among other persons, by way of educating them to ensure that we have a sensible and, of course, a healthy community. And when I mean healthy community, I mean physically healthy, mentally healthy, and otherwise. This morning, we are going to be looking at the concept of the role of schools, the role of communities, and the importance of the drug-free clubs in schools in the fight against drug abuse. And we will also be looking at the theme for the World Day and the way and the role that prevention can play in the fight against drug and substance abuse. This morning, once again, you are welcome. Mo kí yín káàbọ̀ sórí ètò NDLEA Weather Half Hour níbi tí a ti ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa títa àwọn aráàlú lólobó nípa gbogbo ohun tó ní ṣe pẹ̀lú lílo oògùn olóró àti lílo oògùn lọ́nà àìtọ́. Alákọ̀ọ́kọ́ ni substance abuse, ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì ni alákọ̀ọ́kọ́ ni drug misuse, ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì ni drug abuse. Nítorí náà, gbogbo ẹ̀ lájọ máa ṣe lórí ètò yìí lọ́jọ́ tòní. A fẹ́ wo ohun tí àti àǹfààní tí drug free club tó ń ṣe ní ilé ìwé. Ọ̀nà wo la lè gbà láti rí pé ilé ìwé tiwa náà ní drug free club? Kí ni akitiyan tí àwọn àjọ NDLEA àti àwọn adarí ilé ìwé tí wọ́n jọ ń ṣe láti rí pé lílo oògùn olóró láàrin àwọn ọmọ ilé ìwé á fi òpin débà? This morning, we are joined by men of the force one more time. We have the head drug demand reduction department of the NDLEA in Ekiti State, DCN Balogun Musa, and of course, he's the head of that particular drug demand reduction department in NDLEA State Command. We also have our guest who is joining us today, who is a drug-free advocate from one of our amazing institutions in Ekiti State, Department of Private and Business Law, College of Law, Afebola University, Ado Ekiti, Dr. Ife Oluwayemika Bamidele. A very good morning to you and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's just go straight to you. But before we do that, a very good morning to you, Ogawa, Officer Balogun. How about Kiawara Lile Konsi?
Akí gbogbo ara lé, akí àwọn tí ń gbọ́ wa nílé lóko gbogbo tí ẹ bá wà.
Ẹ ṣeun gan ni, ẹ ṣeun gan ni. Ní kíákíá, mo fẹ́ kí a mú láti bí lẹ́bẹ̀ báyìí. How do you describe drug abuse? Or how do you feel students, young people perceive drug abuse? Because we already know that, using drugs in ways that are not prescribed or using for other purposes apart from the fact that this is what this drug is meant to do. Or also holding on to, transporting, distributing, or using illegal substances as drug abuse. But do you feel young people perceive drug abuse this same way?
Ẹ ṣé olóòtú. Ìgbà ń yí padà ni. The times are changing drastically. There was a time when drug abuse used to be a very, very difficult conversation. People really were, there was only a very few number or a very small number of persons who were using or abusing drugs. The statistics, the data showed that only very few were. However, in the last 10 to 20 years, we've had a spike. And with what you're talking about, drug use has become a fad. It's in our music, it's in our movies, it's in our lifestyle. And so seeing it as a bad thing is not very common as before. And that's why the role of advocates or advocacy, the role of the NDLEA, and programs of this nature, as well as organizations, institutions, foundations that sponsor, like the KF Foundation, are supposed to be encouraged. That's why we like what you are doing. However, the viewpoint has changed. People used to see this as a problem before. People used to see this as something that required help or support before. Now people are seeing it as, this is the norm. This is my coping strategy. This is what everybody is doing. This is what I'm seeing in all the places that I go to. So there's a challenge and we must rise up to it.
If we had to look at where drug abuse is mostly prevalent, we would say it's among young persons. But we understand that older persons use drugs as well and are culpable influence when it comes to substance abuse.
Yeah.
How would you describe the role of families, parents, when it comes to substance abuse among young people?
Láàárín ẹbí nínú ilé nínú àwùjọ ó ṣòro fún àgbàlagbà olórí ẹbí ìyá bàbá ẹ̀gbọ́n láti sọ fún àbúrò pé má ṣe nǹkan báyìí tí ẹni yẹn náà fúnra rẹ̀ tó náà bá ń ṣe. When the adults, the family members, the leaders in community are culpable, it becomes difficult for them to correct people. So some of the people who we expect are going to be gatekeeping, helping, supporting, have also become victims themselves, and they're now seeking help. It becomes more difficult. And, you know, in Africa, we talk about how a child is raised by the community. But the community is currently facing a challenge. There's currently a pandemic that the community needs to rise to. So, àwọn la fi ń gbé irú ètò bí eléyìí sílẹ̀ tí wádà fi wà, àwọn ọba aláyé wà ń bẹ̀, àwọn olúùlú ìjọ àlùfáà àáfàá oríṣiríṣi àwọn èèyàn tó lè bá àwọn ẹbí sọ̀rọ̀, tó lè bá àwùjọ sọ̀rọ̀, òun la fi gbé wọn dìde pé ẹ má jẹ́ kí irú nǹkan báyìí kó máa lọ o, a gbọ́dọ̀ fi àwọn ọ̀dọ́ wa sílẹ̀, ẹ jẹ́ ká rí i pé a mójútó wọn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹbí àti gẹ́gẹ́ bí ìjọ àti àwùjọ.
Let me come to you, Officer Balogun Musa Adeola. I'm on the Head Drug Demand Reduction Department ní NDLEA State Command. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ohun tí wọ́n sọ, ó tún tan ìmọ́lẹ̀ sí apá àbí tó yẹ pé a fi gbogbo ara sún sí lọ ní pàtó lórí ètò yìí. Lóòótọ́ àmọ́ ipa tí àwọn àwùjọ ń kó nípa substance abuse, ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n jẹ́ kó yé wa wípé ohun tí àwọn nǹkan bá ń ṣe bí àti àgbàlagbà bá ń ṣe, ó máa ń ṣòro fún àgbàlagbà bẹ́ẹ̀ láti lè bá ọmọdé wí láti má wúrú wà bẹ́ẹ̀ tó máa jẹ́ wípé do what I say, don't do what I do. Ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n tún yẹ kí wọ́n tún mẹ́nu bà lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí tó ní ṣe pẹ̀lú help seeking behaviour. Ṣùgbọ́n kí a tó lọ sí help seeking behaviour, láwọn tó yẹ pé tá a bá ń ṣe enforcement tí à ń pè ní drug supply reduction, àwọn wo lẹ máa ń mú jù gan? Ṣé àwọn ọ̀dọ́ ni àbá àwọn àgbàlagbà?
Ẹ ṣé olóòtú, tó bá di ètò bá ń parí lọ, a sọ̀rọ̀ nípa solutions to most of these problems of drug abuse. Tá a sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ látijọ́ a ti ń sọ náà, ṣùgbọ́n tá a fi parí ẹ̀ náà ni pé kí ni ọ̀nà àbáyọ láàrin kan tí gbogbo wa lè ṣe solutions àwa báwọn èèyàn bá pè náà wọ́n lè fún bá wa dá sí ọ̀nà àbáyọ. Gẹ́gẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ, kíní kan ní role modeling ni pé ó gbọ́dọ̀ ṣẹlẹ̀ láàrin bàbá ìyá ẹ̀gbọ́n àti àwọn tó bá tá bá wò àwòkọ́ṣe lára wọn, láàrin olùkọ́, àwọn tá a rò pé wọ́n jẹ́ èèyàn pàtàkì láàrin ìlú. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí wọ́n ṣe sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan, tá a bá ń gbọ́ nísìnyí ẹ máa wo music, àwọn kan ti popular nù wọn tó jẹ́ pé àwọn kan náà ń wò wọ́n pé èmi náà fẹ́ di ẹni báyìí, ọ̀ bóyá fúbọ́là kan tó ti lálùyọ, àwọn yẹn á máa wò ó gẹ́gẹ́ bí pé ẹni sàpérò ẹni báyẹn tí if they go into drug use or drug abuse tí wọ́n ń ṣe kan tí ò dáa, ó lè ní impact lára àwọn tó ń wo àwòkọ́ṣe lára wọn. Ẹgẹ́ tí kan tí mo sọ, ó lè role model yẹn wà very important ní àárín àwùjọ wa. Then àwọn tá a máa mú jù kò it cuts across strata, kò kò bet àwọn tó common jù náà làwọn ọ̀dọ́ when we are talking of usage ṣé ń gbọ́ mi àwọn tó ń lò jù ó common láàrin ọ̀dọ́ àwọn ọ̀dọ́ là ń gba àwọn tó ṣẹ̀ ń tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ ń fẹ́ experience adulthood tí wọ́n ṣẹ̀ ń dàgbà pé táwọn pè ní youthful exuberance pé èmi náà fẹ́ ṣe kínní bóyá ìtàpá náà ń lọ patí àwọn náà ń jáde jù lálẹ́ àwọn náà ń ṣe social kínní jù so common láàrin wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ recently lẹ́nu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí àwọn obìnrin kọ̀ọ̀kan náà ti fẹ́ bóyá due to poverty or bóyá bí divorce situation tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀.
bí family crisis ìjà pé family crisis kó bá di pé
àwọn obìnrin fẹ́ mọ àwọn obìnrin ó yà wá lẹ́nu pé àwọn obìnrin náà ti ń population àwọn obìnrin tá a mú nísìn àníkàn ní òní tá a lọ kó bí àwọn bíi 15 people office obìnrin mọ̀ fẹ́ tó bíi 8 9 lára wọn so níbi supply kìíní títà nísìn àwọn obìnrin ti fẹ́ mọ involve ara wọn tó sì jẹ́ pé it's not too good like that so adẹ̀rùn ṣe akitiyan láti rí pé we curb this both supply
and demand. Let me come to àlejò wa tí wọ́n jẹ́ àlejò wa lọ́jọ́ tòní Dr. Ifeoluwa Yimika Bamidele tí wọ́n jẹ́ drug free advocate láti ilé-ìwé Afẹ́bàọlá University Ado Ekiti. Now you have a drug free club in your institution. How did you go about it?
So I started the drug free club in our university in conjunction with the NDLEA about 10 years ago. And I've been privileged to also start drug-free clubs in a few other universities across the country, as well as some secondary schools. The way to start is to look for young minds from amongst the people that you want to pass this message across to and share the vision with them. Letting them know the purpose of drug-free clubs. And immediately that leadership or that desire comes to play, we now begin to train them with the NDLEA and now raise leadership for the drug-free clubs, letting them know why drug-free clubs exist and how or what the modus operandi for drug-free clubs are. And we have been able to replicate this across universities as well as some secondary schools. Till date, that still exists. The NDLEA also has a manual on setting up drug-free clubs and the constitution, what their leaders should be or who their leaders should be, as well as what is expected of that leadership. And we've had fantastic times. Recently with the NDLEA, we just set up a drug-free club by the Kayode Adamoleko Foundation in one secondary school in Aisegba Ekiti. That was about Aisegba Community High School. That was some 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we had young people volunteering to say, I want to be part of this.
Now, beyond the advocacy, which is the number one,
yes,
and how the drug-free club should be run,
yes,
who should be involved,
mm-hmm.
What is the role of drug-free clubs?
So you mentioned advocacy, which is one of the very strong things that the drug-free club does. And that cannot...
Just to put it in the proper perspective, in clearer terms.
Yeah, that cannot be underemphasized. I mean, it's one of the biggest things that happen to people, knowing what to do. But you see, around that is also something I call positive peer pressure. It's important to note that, people go to schools and then they say, oh, don't fall for peer pressure. Don't fall for peer pressure. What happens is that because that peer pressure is negative, then that's why people are worried that we'll fall for it. Do you know that if you have friends who don't do a particular thing, and there's 4 of you in this place, and you are the only one who does that thing, you begin to feel somehow about that thing. Not necessarily because that thing is even bad. It doesn't even have to be a bad thing. Just the fact that your friends have stopped drinking a particular drink that has plenty sugar and they are living healthy, they're drinking water, they're going to gym. Do you know that you may want to do the same thing? And so one of the things that drug-free clubs do is that it raises positive peer pressure. And that means that people want to do the right thing. The society is filled with people who want to do the wrong thing. So raising a breed of people who want to do the right thing at all times, especially saying no to drug abuse, is something that is helpful. In addition to that, we're also building a community. The thing with young people is that they don't want to be left alone. They don't want to be by themselves. They don't want to be lost. So they're looking for an opportunity for community. Who will be my friend? If I say I'm not smoking now, they will not talk to me again. If I say I'm not drinking, they will not want to greet me. So you're looking for a community. And in the drug-free clubs, they find that successfully. In addition to that, with support and recovery, one of the things that the drug-free clubs do is that some people are already using drugs. The statistics are very high in Nigeria at this time for young people. However, how do you get out of it? So when the drug-free clubs signpost you to say, this is where to go to, this drug demand reduction, as well as some of the psychologists, psychiatrists that they work with, are able to support people. The NDLEA also has rehabilitation centers, as well as other rehabilitation centers that they can signpost to. So what that means is that through the drug-free clubs, you can get help for support as well as for recovery. And importantly, you also have training the trainers. Some people have never seen the drugs before, or some people don't know the harmful effect of that drug. So alongside the advocacy or the awareness, there's also the level of information and training that can also help them. And believe me, there's a lot of activities that go on with the drug-free clubs. Sometimes they do drama, plays, they do events, and this keeps them busy, active. Sometimes they support footballing events, sporting events. One of the things that we promote with drug-free clubs is alternatives to drug abuse. So is there any activity that these young people can participate in that will mean that they will not be using drugs? So gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹgbẹ́, gẹ́gẹ́ bí àwùjọ, a máa ń rí pé àwọn ọ̀dọ́ wọ́n ń ṣe ń tó mọ́gbọ́n wá tí ò ní jẹ́ kí wọ́n ronú bí wọ́n ṣe máa lo oògùn olóró.
tó ẹ ṣeun gan ni ní ìpínlẹ̀ Èkìtì ẹ jẹ́ n bi yín báyìí pé iléèwé mélòó ló ti ní NDLEA WADA half hour àti wípé báwo ni wọ́n ṣe máa ń dá sí yín tó bóyá ẹ lọ sí iléèwé kan lásọ pé ṣé a lè dá WADA NDLEA drug free club lẹ̀ iléèwé yín, kí ni ìdáhùn tí ẹ máa ń bá pàdé ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà?
Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìgbà inú àwọn iléèwé máa ń dùn. Ìgbà tá a ṣe World Drug Day lọ́dún yìí àti Káyọ̀dé Adámọlẹ́kun Foundation, wọ́n ṣe ìgbékalẹ̀ ètò àti WADA láti sọ pé gbogbo iléèwé tó wà ní ìpínlẹ̀ Èkìtì la máa ní NDLEA drug free clubs, àti polytechnic o, àti university o, àti school of nursing o, àti secondary school o. Ṣùgbọ́n a máa mú lẹ́sẹẹsẹ níléèwé, a máa lọ láti iléèwé sí iléèwé. N tó wá ṣẹlẹ̀ níbẹ̀ ni pé a nílò ìrànlọ́wọ́ àwọn olùdarí iléèwé, a nílò ìrànlọ́wọ́ àwọn ẹlẹ́gbẹ́jẹgbẹ́, a nílò ìrànlọ́wọ́ àwọn ẹgbẹ́ tí ò rọ̀kú léjọba bíi Káyọ̀dé Adámọlẹ́kun Foundation láti rí i pé gbogbo ohun tí àwọn iléèwé yìí nílò, tá a bá fẹ́ lọ sí iléèwé ní síbáyìí, a máa gbé microphone lọ, a máa gbé projector lọ láti fi hàn wọ́n lórí fọ́nrán kan rí àwọn ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ sí ẹni tó bá ń lo oògùn olóró. So ní orí ọ̀fẹ́ tá a nílé ni pé inú àwọn èèyàn dùn láti ní NDLEA drug free club, ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá tún gba ìpè sí àyètún rí báwọn èèyàn ṣe máa sọ pé ok ẹ wá sí iléèwé wa, ṣùgbọ́n a nílò àwọn èèyàn tó máa sọ pé ẹ fi yá mi tó bá jẹ́ títí iléèwé tèmi ní polytechnic, èmi ṣe tán láti jẹ́ ẹni tó máa dúró síbẹ̀. Ní ti secondary school tiwa, èmi ti dá secondary school sílẹ̀, àbí èmi jẹ́ principal ní secondary school, mo fẹ́ rí i pé àwọn ọmọ iléèwé mi wọn ò lo oògùn olóró, màá rí i pé wọ́n ṣèpàdé, ẹ̀yin NDLEA ẹ wá dá sílẹ̀ nínú iléèwé wa.
Ó ṣe pàtàkì, ó ṣe kókó. Drug free club ní amẹ́nubà tó jẹ́ wípé àwọn àjọ NDLEA pẹ̀lú Káyọ̀dé Adámọlẹ́kun Foundation wọ́n lè ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ sí ilé ìwé yín, sí ilé ìjọsìn yín, sí ibi tí àwọn ọ̀dọ́ bá wà. Bóyá ní social club ni ẹ fẹ́ kí àjọ NDLEA kí wọ́n wá dá yín lẹ́kọ̀ọ́, àbí kí wọ́n wá bá yín dá àjọ NDLEA drug free club lẹ̀ níbẹ̀, tí ó pé kì í ṣe pé wọ́n máa dẹ́yẹ sẹ́nikẹ́ni, ẹni tó wáyé pé òun náà nílò ìrànlọ́wọ́. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ohun tí wọ́n sọ wípé positive peer pressure. Young people want to do the right things, ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n nílò àwọn tó yẹ pé yóò ṣe agbátẹrù wọn, tí yóò fún wọn ní ẹnu láti lè sọ̀rọ̀ pé àwa náà lo oògùn olóró lọ́dọ̀ tiwa, àwa dẹ̀ mọ̀wé lọ́dọ̀ tiwa, lo oògùn olóró. Wọ́n tún sọ̀rọ̀ nípa building a community, àti wípé àwùjọ tí a ní, àwa náà a lè sọ wípé adádúró, lo oògùn olóró, a dẹ̀ ń tẹ̀síwájú, à ń ṣe ohun tó yẹ kí a ṣe ní àwùjọ wa. You're still listening to NDLEA WADA Half Hour right here on Midas Radio 90.5 FM at Duikiti. Don't forget, it's still the Christmas season, and Midas Radio is right here to accommodate you. If you walk in, you will see a lot of children having a great time with us right here. And we are also using this medium to ask parents to take ownership. Don't forget what our guests told us this morning, that if there is positive role modeling in the house, in the family, in the community, then we would be able to correct when we see young people doing the wrong things. Now, before we draw the curtain on the show this one, I'd like to ask you, how does prevention play a very, very important role in stemming drug abuse, substance abuse, and the latter consequences of drug abuse among young people?
So, what I say to people is that you can say when you start, but you cannot tell how far you will go. So, prevention is one of the biggest forms of solving the drug pandemic or endemic, that situation that we found ourselves in. In one of the Southwest universities in Nigeria, a 50-year-old woman, a day to her birthday, I was called by the vice chancellor of that school to come for her son. She said, "Oh, I'm preparing for my birthday, so I can't come. I'll send somebody to come in." And then they told her, "You have to come." Let me shock you. She had to come to pick the body of her only son. He had died. People want to explore, they want to try, but because our bodies are not the same, it means that one person tries, it gets away with it, another person tries, and that is the end of their life. So, psychologists, psychiatrists, medical professionals talk about drug abuse as a revolving door. It's very difficult for people to get out of it without support. So it is better not to start at all if you have not started. And if you have started, please get help and seek support. The NDLEA is here, DDR is here. There's 4 numbers that the NDLEA has created. There's sessions that they have like this NDA half hour and drug-free clubs in schools. Seek help, get support if you have started. But if you have not, please don't do it. Thank you.
So, ẹ ṣeun gan ni, ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni pé ohun tí ẹ sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni pé èmi àti àwọn àbúrò mi lẹ̀ ń bá wí lákòókò tá a wáyé, nítorí pé ẹni tó yẹ pé ó bá wà lójú kinní kan náà la máa ń pèsè láti dá sí. And it obviously shows that you have a lot of experience around this community. Let me come to Officer Musa Balogun. Kí ni àmọ̀ràn yín fún àwọn ọ̀dọ́ wa níbi a ṣe ń wọnú ọdún ayẹyẹ ọdún tuntun àti kérésìmesì tí à ń ṣe lọ́wọ́?
Mo ṣe inú mi dùn ẹni tá a gbé wá láàárọ̀ yìí, mo tún kí wọn lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí. He's a very knowledgeable person and he's a very young man too. Wọ́n sọ̀rọ̀ lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣọ́ra sí. A máa ń sọ fáwọn èèyàn owó tí ẹ fi ń tírìtì téèyàn bá go into all this problem kì í ṣe owó kékeré. Ẹ bá dé psychiatric hospital bẹ́ẹ̀ nísìn wọn ò rí bẹ́ẹ̀dì mọ́. Ẹ bá dẹ̀ fẹ́ ordinary rehabilitation sìn ẹ máa sọ̀rọ̀ 2,000 of naira before you can. And kọ́lọ̀ dẹ̀ sanu yẹn a máa ń sọ kíní kan ọpọlọ ẹ jẹ́ ká wà very careful. Ọpọlọ wa wọn yìí ṣe sọ́jírì ọpọlọ ọpọlọ bá lè wà affected nínú drug use ọ̀nà ò ní yàwá wèrè owó tí wọ́n máa ń ná sí ó máa ń pọ̀ jù, so ẹ jẹ́ ká sọ̀rọ̀ àṣekú tí òbí ó fún wọn sákàkiri á lò fún other positive means, so ọ̀nà ò ní ọ̀nà máa ṣàánú wa nínú ọdún yìí àwọn náà sì ṣàánú ara wa.
Ẹ ṣeun gan ni lórúkọ gbogbo àwọn tí a jọ ṣe láàárọ̀ yìí tí ó fi dùn, lórúkọ Drug Demand Reduction Department Head Officer Musa Balogun Adeola, lórúkọ PRO NDLEA State Command Ifeoluwa Fabiyi, lórúkọ Staff Officer Drug Demand Reduction Obadare Busayo, àti lórúkọ àlejò wa láàárọ̀ yìí tí wọ́n jẹ́ advocate fún Drug Free Society, Dr. Ifeoluwa Yimika láti iléèwé Abua tí wọ́n dẹ̀ jẹ́ olùdásílẹ̀ ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ drug free clubs láwọn iléèwé káàkiri orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà. Orúkọ tèmi ni Olúwaṣẹ́gun Adélékè. Mo ní kí ẹ darapọ̀ tó bá di ọ̀sẹ̀ tó ń bọ̀ níbi a ti ṣe máa mú àkọ́tún ètò yìí wá sí etí ìgbọ́yín. Títí dìgbà náà ńkọ́, ẹ jẹ́ kí a yàgò fún lílo lọ́nà àìtọ́ àti lílo oògùn olóró. Ire o.
Ẹ̀jẹ̀ máa bá wọn sọ, kí wọ́n má ṣe hùwà ìbàjẹ́ mọ́ o. Kí ìrẹ́ olú ẹni bá ìjà kòkòrò kẹ́sùn. Kábàámọ̀ràn ni wísí. Wùrùwẹ́rẹ́ rẹ̀ yíyá àjọ ni sùn lóru. Àjọkó gbógun ti àṣà gbígbé àti lílo egbògi olóró lálẹ́. NDLEA. Ẹ̀ka tùpínlẹ̀ Èkìtì lẹ́mọ̀ ìfọ́rẹ́rẹ́. Àṣà gbígbìn, títà, ìlòkulò àti títí fàyàwọ́